Right. We are back, and we have the screen. And stream finished. And this says started less than 1 minute ago. Okay, so that just doesn't actually stay up to the same thing. Right. That's definitely a different link. Here we go. Step back. I'll need. Let's do this. All right. Yeah, that totally. Okay. Totally wrenched everything, but we're back. We have this, and that's what we needed. Okay, so where was I actually at? So this is set up, this is local we have. I do need to switch this out. Actually, let me update, right? Because I think there might be a newer commit. I also don't need to hear myself. All right. Must remember, always open VLC before OBS. I don't pull. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. That's the change there. I think that I saved. And we'll say cable I'm using is on its last legs. Did my change here save? Will it save? Do it again? Boot animation. Saved. I need to run the server. I'm actually gonna run it because I made a different environment for it. There. IP's in there. That's actually a kitten one, I think. Oh, okay, so we're probably gonna send the voice Katie, but the server is using this one instead. Anyway, well, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that should actually just still work, which is fine. Let's try it. That goes below there. It's actually. Oh.
Electronics. Electronics.
Yeah, it totally worked. I think it's faster than AWS as well. I mean, it doesn't have to go across the internet. And AWS probably using a fancier model, but also like fancier hardware too. So it's like, I thought wasn't this it's only GET requests, I guess. I could have swore yesterday this was showing the requests. Like it printed out when I had requested the root and the health URLs, like endpoints. But maybe it doesn't do post, I guess. And the TTS thing, I'm pretty sure was a post. So yeah, that's totally working. And I got the latest code from here, so we definitely have tested what's in there. AWS Poly, I don't think changed again, but I'll just double check that as well. So I pulled here, and we can go AWS Poly, just overwrite that. I don't actually, did it change? There was not much in that. Just the file name, actually. Yeah, that's still gonna be the same. And I did already have that. Yeah, so let me just double check one more. Since we did update the CodePy, let's just try here that we go back this way and it, oops, wrong. Go back this way and it works. I can, not really. If I move this farther, maybe. This one should be Amazon. And like I said, it does take longer.
Code. C-O-D-E. Code.
There we go. So what I'm gonna do for now is approve this and leave a note that I tested it. I'm not gonna merge it just yet because I will want to update the code explanation page in the guide at the same time. So I'll probably do this Monday or maybe tomorrow if I don't end up having much going on. But what I will do is basically update around here. So the new code will pull in automatically. That we don't need to do manually. But I'll mention that it's now in this word fetcher class. Like right now, it's just going to be talking about the function. I'll mention the new word fetcher class. I'll link over to the playground, and I will merge the PR all at the same time in this one. All right. Oh my God, I did it correctly. So I'm not too ashamed to admit, for some reason, relevant is like impossible for me to spell correctly the first time. But I just did it. Like 95% just swapping the E and the A. Like always thinking that I've done it correct this time and never being correct. All right, that. Awesome. Thanks again to Retired Wizard. Super appreciated. I think this is really cool to be able to open the door to the local text-to-speech models rather than relying on the old Amazon AWS special. Okay. Next thing I want to play with is MCP server for hooking up to a CircuitPython device. So for anyone who doesn't know, let's see what Wikipedia says about MCP server. Basically, it's a server made for interacting with LLM models. So it's like a specialized interface that the models have kind of pre-programmed in how to interact with. Let's see, Wikipedia is probably going to be better. Open source framework introduced by Anthropic. I think this came out at the same time as Claude Code, maybe? Or maybe Claude Code is the first one that was using it, but now they all, well, not all, but a bunch of them support the same interface, essentially. And it's kind of become a sort of de facto standard. Or maybe a real standard. I don't know if there's like a body that put a standard on it already. But. So I would like to make... And these servers, just generally speaking, all they do is they hook up the LLM to some other thing, right? So that could be reading and writing files like Claude Code can do, or running terminal commands like Claude Code can do. Or that could be, you know, anything else, right? Like if you had a database, that could be giving the model access to data from the database. It could be anything that you want to kind of like make an LLM able to access. This is kind of where the MCP servers come in. So I would like to make one that does two things. One, allow very, very specific file read and write into only the CircuitPy drive. Like, it doesn't need to be able to read and write anywhere else. I just want it to be able to read and write to the CircuitPy drive. So that'll be one thing, read and write to the CircuitPy drive. And then 2, I want to give it access to TO, or some kind of serial console. For me, that's MBTO, because that's what I use as the serial console, so that it can see the serial console output from CircuitPython running. And with those 2 things, it should be able to like iteratively develop on the microcontroller. We should be able to maybe like tell it, write a script that does this. It could take a try at it, save it on the device, and then look in the serial and see like, nope, you got this error, so iterate again, edit the code, save it, look at the output. Theoretically, like, if we can kind of close this loop, we can give the model the same sort of iterative development that we have with CircuitPython, which is very quick, where you can just, modify the code, save it, it runs, and then if you can see the serial output, it's like, boom, right there, it runs, you look at the output, you decide what to do next. So that is what I'm trying to do. I am very, very, very new to all of the AI stuff, so in true AI stuff fashion, I'm having Cloud explain a bunch of this stuff to me, and I am going to basically... Well, okay, so this one is about integration. We're not to the integration yet. We need the actual server first. This one is like... So I had it show me an example of an MCP server written in Python, but it's gone like super high level. This isn't really what I want. So this is using this thing, MCP, with the server class. So it's saying install that, and then just run the server, I guess. Just installing this somehow puts this somewhere where you can use it? I don't know. There's no code here. Oh, wait, the code is this. Yeah, okay, it was not folded out, so it looked a little weird. Okay, so there, it does have code here, but this code, like I was saying a little bit, it's kind of super high level. It's using this MCP server thing. So at its core, an MCP server just as an HTTP server, I'm pretty sure. I kind of, like, for me, I'm a little bit of a visual, it's weird to call it visual, because obviously I can look at the code here too, but like, I want to see the HTTP server of this. I want to understand a little bit more what the inputs and outputs look like. Maybe eventually I get to the point where I want to use this helper class, which is doing a lot of stuff, it seems like, for it. But I kind of want to go lower level a little bit than this. I kind of want to see like a Flask server or like a basic Python server, so that it, because like here I don't really know, what it's doing. Like, it might work. I have no doubt even if it doesn't work, we could presumably massage it a little bit, get it working, as long as it didn't completely hallucinate this class, this module, I should say, this library, which, that's possible too. But as long as this thing is real, it looks like it more or less works, right? It looks like Python code that's letting you define one of these MCP servers, and it's, you implement this list tools, you're giving it back a list of which tools it has, in this case, a read file tool, a write file tool. But it's kind of like abstracting all of the guts of the request and the response and the actual reading of the file inside of this stuff. It's like defining this tool object, list directory properties, required path. Then there's call tool. If name is this, path. Okay, so actually some of the guts are here. Not the guts of the HTTP server like I was talking about, but this is the actual functionality stuff, right? So you register all these tools. The model is going to come and call a tool. It's going to ask the MCP server, hey, I would like to use this tool, please. And it will say, like, maybe I would like to use the read file tool. There are some inputs to that, arguments. It's like a path. I guess they call maybe inputs properties, it looks like. So the model is going to say, I would like to read file. The path I would like to read is this. This code here is going to go get a path object, read the content, return it. So for one thing, like I was saying a little bit ago, I don't want this to be general, right? So we're definitely not just going, and it says this down here as well, that you would want to limit this, right? So we won't just have this be able to access any file. That's kind of crazy. We'll be like /CircuitPy only. In fact, what we might do is just, I think the best thing to do is, well, two things. Yeah, two things is the path is going to be relative to CircuitPy. So if you ask for CodePy, you're going to get CircuitPy CodePy. You're not going to get like root CodePy. Path will be relative to CircuitPy, and then in this code here, we will hard code CircuitPy. That's one thing. Thing two is we will be we'll filter out .. We won't allow that. Otherwise, you'll be able to go up and out, which we don't want. There might be a better way to filter that as well. Maybe like, I don't know if it will change the absolute path or something. Anyway, cross that bridge when we get to it. A write file is looking basically the same, but it has also a content. Makes sense. And it's going to create the directory for you if it doesn't exist. That's kind of it. Same thing. I think we'll keep that, right? Because if it wants to make a directory on the device, that's fine. But again, we'll limit it to CircuitPy. List directory. Guess I don't know if I mean I don't know that it would need to do that, but I guess. That one's a maybe. I don't really know why it would need to do that, right? I guess if it wants to check if the file it created exists or something, maybe, but yeah. I mean, for reading, I don't even know if it needs reading anything but like CodePy or any file it created. I don't know if we can keep track of ones it created. Maybe we give it access to both CodePy and any file that it makes. Of course, if it can't list, it could clobber a file. Well, but we could check in here though. Okay. Okay, like I was saying though, I would kind of like to see the guts. This is like sort of very high level. I think, can you show me a basic Python MCP file tool server like this, but lower level, not using the MCP module? Use Flask or some basic HTTP server. I'm kind of like I'm just curious. Like for me, it's like it'll click better if I can see what is happening at this layer too. Higher up, it makes pretty good sense, I think. Obviously, we have a lot more boilerplate this time. All right, so helper to create a error, helper to create a success, stuff, MCP. So this, okay, so we get MCP takes a post request. It comes with JSON in the body. It has a method argument, like a key in the JSON, a params. If the method is initialized, it creates a UUID, sends a response with, presumably this would list the tools that are available. It seems empty here, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's a little weird. So server info, it says file server version. Okay. Return that JSON. So initialize. What is it? So session okay, it goes in sessions. Interesting. Okay. But but hmm. Okay. How so I don't think that's gonna work, is it? It's not returning the quest ID. Where did this come from? Data.getID. So it generates a unique ID. It stores it as a key in the sessions dictionary, but it doesn't return the UUID to the client side. So whenever the next request comes in, how is it going to match up with the same session? Stay tuned to find out. Maybe it won't. The tools list is another method. Method was one of our JSON, so tools list. Okay, so this one is giving a full list of the tools. I don't know why that's not here as well, but okay. And then yeah, we saw this kind of basic stuff in the other higher level code as well. I think it wasn't in as much detail all the way, but it's basically the same stuff, right? So read file, properties, path, it's required. Write file, properties, path, content, both required. List directory, properties, path required. So then create a success response with JSON tools and tools, which is this list of these objects. Okay, fair enough. Request ID. Back the response. Okay. So then tools.call. Nope. Oh, did they? No. Why is it reply? Why is it a sword for reply? Okay. Got to ban the old Twitch viewer seller. Tools call will get name and arguments from params, which is also where method came from, right? Yeah. So we'll have a method, we'll have a params, and then in the case of tools call, so method will be tools call, but we'll also have a name and a arguments. We'll call execute and then create a successful response. Execute, this will probably be very similar to the other code we had. So tool name, arguments, if it's read file, do this, get the content, make a JSON, make an error message. Yeah. If it's write file, open up the path, make the directory, write the content to it, return success message. Little fascinating. It's just returning straight up JSON here when it made a message for errors too, right? Like it made a method up there, a function for like return success JSON, return error JSON, but it seems to be just not using them. Well, maybe it will. So this one is just returning a dictionary, I guess. This is not returning from the server. This is just a function return. Okay, yeah. So at the server level, it will probably, presumably it will maybe use that helper. Write file, list directories, get the path. If it's not a directory, give an error. If it is directory, get items sorted. Directory or file. End all the stuff, send the contents. It's a little weird that it sends it not as like JSON or something. Okay. Unknown tool if you told it one that doesn't exist. Has a health with just hard-coded status. Okay, good stuff. Then run the server. Main MCP endpoint and then health. And it is going to try to run on 5,000. So does it use these? It does. They're not found internal. Are these like standard? Okay. I put this stuff. So I think I have CircuitPython RAG experiments. I think we just make a CircuitPython MCP experiments also. Okay. Yeah, I like this better because like I'm more familiar with Flask. There's less of this code that's like there's less of the functionality hidden inside of that other like MCP library, right? I mean, in fact, there's none. We'll see if this ends up working, but we're looking good. It did. Oh, it's okay. Protocol version of MCP, I guess. Yeah, so session, the session thing, I think it just, that seems hallucinated, right? Because it says store session state, but nothing ever uses this again. It creates an empty thing here with the session ID that it creates from this, but as far as I can tell, it's not like doing anything else with it. I mean, we could ask it, I guess, but it seems like it's doing anything with that. What is the sessions for just code puts UUID keys into it, but the value is an dictionary. None of the rest code ever seems to do with it. Maybe it's like if you wanted it to be more in depth where it could go back and forth and like do multiple things. Yeah. Yeah. You could either remove it or use it. Yeah, I was saying, like, we need to, so I mean, that's the thing. You would send the session ID in the response, and then you would rely on the client to keep giving you the same session ID, and then you could store information related to that. Like, realistically, if I were going to do that, I probably would actually not do that with Flask, or I would find there's probably a library that manages it in a more secure way than I could do by just jamming it out myself. Or relying on the old chatbot here to jam it out for us, but For now, I'm gonna leave it, but it's not gonna bother any. I mean, it's gonna. Well, I'll comment it out actually, because it is gonna just make this dictionary. I'm not gonna run this server long enough for it to matter, but theoretically, it's like leaking memory, I suppose, right? Because it's just gonna add and add and add. Not adding that much. It's an empty dictionary, but and a UUID, but it's just gonna keep adding and never removing. So we'll just turn that off for now. Everything else I think should work. It did tell me that I could test it, which we could try with curl. Sounds kind of fun. So let's do that. We do want to add the restrictions, right? So what we're going to do is I'm just going to keep the interface the same. Read file. Well, let's, should we call this read? Okay, let's just leave it alone for the moment right now. Maybe it should be like read CircuitPy file, write CircuitPy file, or CircuitPython, maybe. Somehow I think we want to like add to the name that it's restricted in this way. But we can do that. So arguments. So I think for path, can you just give it, I think maybe multiple things? Like if you, so this is path, which is what, os.path or something? The import? Path load. I just went, for instance, media CircuitPy. Then another thing here, like if I would need that or not. Yeah. I'm gonna, you know, obviously we would not hard code this to TimC. Somehow we're gonna need to like find the device. We use Disco tool maybe. Or we could look in the, well, but it's not Windows on the default, right? Windows makes it tricky because it's like it could be any letter or something. I don't know. You can look it up by name. There must be a way, right? Probably we just use Disco tool. I think does that automatically for you. Like a command line. I think Neardoc made a command line tool that helps you find the drive, and I think the serial port as well for your CircuitPython device. Who is I am gonna not use the fruit jam for this. Other RP2040 plugged into. Path and then arguments path. So now whatever they did is now relative to this. And there's a path dot absolute, is there? Oh, I did P. Absolute. So if you did like this, okay, so the dots stay in the absolute path. It doesn't like resolve that and remove it. I think what we do here is, I mean, this is the most basic thing we could do. There's probably more robust, but for now I'm just gonna stick the basics and just say if path Absolute. So if dot dot slash. We'll just do dot dot. I think we just omit dot dot altogether, even if it doesn't have a slash. Like, if that's in there, we're gonna return an error. Content text error. We'll just say allowed path. Can't do those. I guess it had a string. Right, so it don't have an actual error object or anything. So we'll just do that. So we return that. We don't let them do any dot dots, and we have hard-coded the path where it's going to come from. So theoretically, if we did that correctly, it would not be able to read outside of CircuitPy, which is what I want. I'll do the same thing. See, one thing I'm going to do is just move this out. And then we'll do the same thing for validate path. So what we'll do here, validate path, it returns none if there's no error, and it returns the error if there is an error. This way we can reuse this function on the writing side, and if we wanted to, we could add more checks and balances, right? We could add more tests to make sure it's not doing... Like, for instance, one of the things we could do and probably should do is no reading settings.toml. Perhaps no writing settings.toml either. Yeah, in fact, why don't we just go ahead and add that too? All right, so we can say then errors equals validate path, and if errors, it doesn't actually matter, but I kind of prefer this. If errors is not none, then return errors. Error, it's not multiple errors. And then we should be able to just use the same thing here. So path ended to that, validated, errors returned if it contains anything bad, otherwise get content, do the stuff it says, which is going to be make the directory if we need, write the content, turn the response, error if it didn't work. Same thing here, let's do CircuitPython path, validate path, okay. All right, and then health doesn't really do anything, but I'll leave it alone. Okay, so theoretically, this should be an MCP server that can read and write CircuitPy files. It is going to run on port 5000, which I think is fine for now. I think I'm just going to run... Do it without host? It would be fine to just do localhost in this case. So the difference would be 000 is going to make it available to other things on the network, and localhost is not. Localhost is going to make it only available to whichever computer is running the server. In this case will be my computer here. Which matches how I plan on using it, at least most immediately. I don't really intend to have the LLM on a different computer on the network, like sending MCP requests over the network. In this case, like in my case, the LLM will be on the same computer as the server, so localhost is fine. And I think in this kind of thing, limiting it as much as we can is probably good, since it is kind of a reading and writing file primitive for the computer, especially if our validation is not good. Okay, so that is running. So now this told us we could test with, excuse me, test with curl. Pretty straightforward. Interestingly, we had to pass an ID. Have to pass an ID? Kind of interesting. For that, I do kind of. I'm gonna I could probably do this actually. Can you? So let's say show me Python requests versions of those examples that you wrote, Perl. It's kind of like, I don't know why that's a paste icon. I don't know why the paste icon is for copy, but test in server. And I'm actually just going to do one now. So we will only do list. Start with. I don't want to call it test because that makes it be different. So we call it try MCP server. Try to get rid of this. If we can just running it again. So by having test in the name, it like believes that it is a test and it tries to run it through PyTest, which is not what I. Cool. Yeah, so we did list tools. We got back a list of all the tools it has. Interestingly, this is actual JSON. Whereas like the list of files was I thought like plain text, wasn't it? Just said like it was like a sentence type thing with new lines instead of JSON. Let's try it. So this is, I don't know why it did list directory at the end. I guess so you could see the file it created. All right, so here, parameters list directory argument. Pat should work with a dot, I guess. I feel like just empty is kind of more appropriate, but I think it should work with that as well. Nope. Physics path not iterable. All right, so we need to fix that. I got a run introduction though, so I'll be right back. Okay. I think this is probably because that in our validation, I did absolute, like, if string in absolute. And this is probably not allowed because as the error says, absolute's not iterable, which you need to be iterable if you want to use in. Basically, I assumed this would be a string, and it's actually not. Sure, if this is, was it auto? It might have been auto restarting there. I'm not sure. It's interesting. It doesn't seem to change. I wonder if it's because I deleted it. Usually, when I run one in a file, it will update this to be that same file. So if I were to click run again, it would do the same one. Yeah. Okay. So here we have. The response is like so weird. So contents of CircuitPy, then new line. So then every line has, is it a directory or is it a file? But it looks like it worked. I don't know, like, one thing that might be interesting is to try the higher level one. Try the MCP server one, the MCP module one, to see if it uses this same format. Again, we could try asking it. I mean, the thing with asking it questions is it will kind of just blatantly lie to you, so I'd be a little careful there, especially when it's like stuff I don't actually know the answer to, right? So I noticed the list directory tool returns a text like kind of file tool standard server. No, made it up. Okay, awesome. There's no official one. What does the library do? Sure. I feel like JSON, like, oh, this seems like the best one. Unix, I guess, actually. Just random make your own doesn't. JSON's bigger, I guess, though. I will say JSON's bigger, which is best. Probably be able to figure it out, I guess. I don't know. We'll leave it. I think listing probably we don't. Listing is kind of at the bottom of what we play. The most part, I don't think it should really be listing. Listing directories, really. Most of the time, it's either going to be reading a file or writing a file. It doesn't really need to know which files exist, don't exist. I mean, I guess if you wanted it to be like safer, you could have it list directory first and then not overwrite a file. But realistically, if you wanted it to be safer in that way, you should enforce that inside of this, right? You should say inside of write file here, it should be like, if that thing exists, don't do it or whatever. But we want it to be able to overwrite CodePy, so can't really do that to be practical, but okay. So read file, I don't have a test text, but what we'll do is CodePy. Contents of CodePy has got commented out. I think it's probably got a, honestly, it's probably really big. think I was just doing the old tabbed development by just commenting out huge swaths of code. But found that, so that should be fine. So then what I will do, copy of this for now. We'll just say this was basically like a register and spy drivers. Okay. And I'll just go ahead and manually delete CodePy. Come to grips to the fact that it's going to get overwritten. Scatters. So then let's try writing. So I'll just give it like hello world. Right. Okay, so one problem is it'll need to escape this. Actually surprised it's... Okay, it would have an error if I did that, right. So do we want to do like this? I mean, hopefully the... So does the model have to do... The model does not have to do that because it will not be... Will not be using like a hard-coded string like this in the Python code. So I think it will not have the same... I think it will not have to worry about the quotes. I think the quotes will just work correctly from it. See if it fails when I get to it. So this should overwrite CodePy with hello world. And then theoretically, if we had TO running, which I happen to do have TO running here, and if auto reload is on, which I don't know if it is, but it should be because I don't have a boot py. So it should run as well when we do this. Boom. Look at that. All right. That's there. Okay. We can read and write. Let's just try to make sure a little bit of our validation is working. Which I will test the ... first. But this file doesn't exist, but we should get the error that the ... is not allowed instead of the file doesn't exist. Yeah. And I will try this. I'm going to do it off camera just in case I didn't need. Nope. Allowed. Okay. Cool. The reading and writing and listing are all working. The validation is working. It's filtering out ... and settings toml. So theoretically, it should be impossible to escape the hard-coded directory we put it in, CircuitPy. I don't know if that validation is robust or not. Don't rely on that. Like, definitely find someone who knows better than me if you're making an actual thing exposed to actual stuff. For now, I think it's good enough for us to move on to the next step, though. So we have a server. Let's try integrating. So we basically need to use a model that supports tools, which I am. The main model that I have set up is GPT OSS, number whatever the small one is. I think it's just list, actually. GPT OSS 20B. So one thing is LLM. That's actually probably the environment we were using. We'll need to make sure it has Flask, all the stuff we need, but I didn't catch a look at the actual mic. Hopefully I got it out of the way. You did not just hear me sneeze into it. Hopefully it wasn't too loud when I bumped it to move it either. So sorry. Oh, so that's in there now. Let's make sure this works. I don't know if this will have Flask. We'll see. Nope. All right, let's install Flask. Very good. And I might not have requests either, actually. Settings. It did correctly filter it out, so I'm less scared about running it. Okay, yeah, it looks like we have requests already, so that's all good. And we should have now, like, Olama, I think. I don't know why it hid it behind a box, but okay. Cool. So, direct integration. You could build or configure an LLM client that supports both. You could use an existing client. Or you could make a custom solution. But we'll catch up in the chat here. This is from a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week or two ago at least. And I kind of remember some of this, but I'm having what I think was the same question I had then. Like, how does 1 and 3 differ? These both feel like build it yourself to me. This one has got more detailed instructions for build it yourself slightly, but they both seem like build it yourself to me. The model should be good, I'm pretty sure. Well, definitions, I hopefully will be fine there. I don't know, we'll see. Server's running, that's fine. Guidance. So yeah, I asked about clients. I don't think I want to use any of the clients that it came back with. There's MCP, which is TUI client. There's MCP host, a CLI tool that allows you to start your MCP host using a command like this. So you go MCP host M, you choose a model, you config, and it gets a JSON. That's maybe closer to what I want, possibly. Olama MCP client, a tool for connecting Olama-based languages models with external tools. Automatic model detection, seamless. Maybe? I don't really want a full desktop thing. I'm not looking for that right now. I mean, maybe at some point, but again, for me, it's like I want to see the guts. I want to get my head wrapped around which piece does what. And then later, it might be nice to have one big thing that does a load of it and hides it from you, but for now, I'm like, would like to understand. Probably not going to load. That's good. Link to a resource that doesn't really exist. Okay, yeah, I did ask this. Yeah, what are? Oh, well, okay, I asked about 1 and 3, but I didn't tell it my does seem the same to me. Like communicates with both. You would create a client application. It would call the Olam API. It would have all these servers. It could also call, I guess. Hmm. Okay. So this, yeah, this one is definitely do it yourself. This one is a lot like we're gonna make a for loop or a while loop or something that's basically gonna be like input came from the user. We let the model do its thing with that input. The model will either be done, it will just output an answer that that can go back to the user, or it will output a thing that says I want to use a tool. And our code will have to look for that output, call the tool, so like make the request as I did in the test file there. I'm gonna kill this, I guess. Right, browser, but it did make a difference. Interesting. Take a look at what this does. So it does have you do Olama, then it says run, then it says config. Command line. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Okay, so config JSON. It's setting up the MCP host. And now our local LLM is set up to use the servers. It looks like they're using a Go server. I don't have a Go server, so I don't care about that. I think. Well, the MCP host, though. Maybe we do care about that, I guess. Start your MCP host using the command below. Provide the path for your local JSON that you created above. You're now ready to use MCP servers using local LLMs and Olama. Access to following tools. Using a week. So get what this is doing exactly. That does not seem like a DuckDuckGo search. First of all, the intention is just all over the place here. So MCP servers, SQLite is one. This is just going Anaconda EX. No, I don't know. I don't know anything really about the Anaconda ecosystem. Maybe this is a normal thing there. I'm not sure. Path. Light. DDD search. NPX. I don't know. Why is there DD? So I assume DDG is DuckDuckGo. There's DDG search here, but there's also DuckDuckGo server, which is running this thing. Server file system. OneDrive. Uh, okay. Okay, so if we were going to do this way, we need to create that JSON file, which kind of defines these things, but I don't know what would I don't really know what I would be putting for these in my case. Like I'm not going to run any commands really. I'm going to send requests, hopefully. So, I mean, I guess you could put curl commands there, I suppose, but I don't really want to be running it through curl either. Like, I don't want it to run commands at all. Okay. So here's like the loop. So if we were to code it ourselves, which I guess maybe is what I might end up doing for the first go around here, which will, I guess, be fine anyway because we kind of end up doing it that way as well to use the rag stuff that I'm looking at also. Yeah. In this example, user says list of files. Basically, the LLM responds kind of like, hey, I want to use this tool. This is the list of all tools, actually. I think. Well, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, parameters. They call them properties in mine. Interesting. This is it actually asking to run the tool. Oh, I'm not sure what client is in this case. So user says this. This, I think, is it listing the available tools. And then this would be it asking to use that specific tool. I guess client is our code in this case. Client is our Python code that has this loop in it that's doing all this stuff. Yeah. Well, I guess. And then we would tell it, here's all the available tools. So I guess we would give it the question and we would give it all the available tools in the same prompt. It will then ask to use this tool. Our code needs to figure out that it's asking to use the tool, and it needs to send the request to the MCP server. The MCP server is going to respond with the files. It is responding with JSON in this case. The client, our code again, is going to give the response we got from the MCP server back to the LLM. The LLM is finally going to end up outputting a full answer, which goes back to the user. Somehow our code will have to know. I mean, in this case, it's because it's messages, I guess. And it's not tools or anything like that, but I don't know what OAI one does. OSS. Yeah, all of those are things to deal with at some point. So then they go on to say here, so this was, I mean, this, again, this all sounds like build it yourself. I mean, this is describing writing the loop that's kind of doing this whole everything. But then it goes on to say 3 here. Number 3 is a custom solution. Build it from scratch, which I don't. They have MCP and requests. Implement the support. STDIO client and request. JSON-RP. SSE transport. Remote servers. I don't know what it's talking about. I guess you could run this. Oh, interesting. So I think this is kind of like saying you could run your server just on a local socket or whatever this thing is, I guess. Instead of running an HTTP server and using that as the transport, you could just be doing kind of local socket thing or something there. I don't really get what this code is. Oh, I'm a client. It has a chat. Chat takes the model, the message, the tools. Creates a payload, adds tools to payload. Sends to API chat. Well, okay, so Olama, I think, runs... So Olama, I think, actually runs an HTTP server also. Or like it can. I don't know if it does by default. Might be. So I typically use it through either the command line or through the Python code, but it actually does have its own HTTP server, I think, as well. So you could, instead of using like import Olama and then like Olama dot whatever I don't know what the API is off the top of my head, but instead of using whatever it is, you could use this HTTP server. You could use only requests and you could be sending JSON back and forth instead. I don't know if it's any faster or better. Full format conversion. Okay, so that's just adding function to that. And then orchestrator. They build out this class here, which it's an Olama client. Unknown really what that is. Add servers, get all tools. Main chat loop. It is keeping history, prevent infinite loops. Olama.chat. Alright, so basically it's saying if the response is message, then it's like just human readable kind of thing, it looks like. Oh, no, because this is still checking in that. Okay, so message. So it's going to have tool calls. If it didn't call any tools, just return what it had. If it does call tools, we need to figure out which tool it's going to call. Call to execute tool thing. Get the results. Add them to the history. And we would end up looping again after that. So the LLM gets another chance, basically. It's going to see the question, the tool stuff, the response from the tool, and then it can kind of like formulate its answer based on the actual response. Care about that just yet? An add MCP server takes what? Server name and a client. Client has a send request. Okay. Okay. I think so. I have a much better understanding of some of the different components now. I don't think I'm going to get super duper much farther in 15 minutes, though. I'm not necessarily compelled to just keep going. We got the server, and I think next I will try to write some of the code that does this. I don't. This I don't think is just usable off the bat though, right? Because this doesn't get imported. I don't know where it's from. And our server, we don't have a client object. Oh, that's Olama client. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just going to use import Olama. Okay, so then doing this as the client with the send request thing. Yeah, I kind of want to go through this and figure out how much of it is actually necessary. I don't think we will need all this. I'm not doing the stdio thing at all. Maybe we'll do this, but I don't think so because I'm not using that endpoint. I don't know. Maybe we'll make our own one of these. So we have HTTP. I don't know why SSE. Be sure if that server. I don't think the server is using server-side events. I think that's what SSE stands for. But I think this is just blocking. If anything, it's like long polling. It's gonna make you wait, return the response once it's ready. What it looks like to me. Okay. But I kind of have the idea at least. And I do think I don't really want to just use one of these to start with. Because again, I want to understand a bit better what's going on. So this does seem maybe convenient to wrap it a bit better and just have a config file that says like, here's the servers, ready, set, go. But yeah, so I want to see. I want to understand a bit better and be able to tweak and tinker a bit more than that. So I'll probably end up using some of this stuff. I don't know that we really need a client object per se. And I'm not sure about if I want to do this way. I mean, it's also weird that so it's a little weird that it goes so it goes add MCP server, you get a name, you get a client, and it goes self MCP servers name client. So it's going to put the client into there. But then it's also going to turn around and say client.sendRequest tools list. It's going to get back JSON listing all the available tools. And it's going to go client.tools equals. Okay, because it loops here over those. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. This feels a little awkward though to like get this client and then to store this list on it. Like, yeah, I don't know. This feels weird. But this is basically the core of what we need. Is this kind of loop here? We're going through the iterations, and it's kind of able to know what tools are available, get the input from the user, give the list of available tools and the input to the LLM. It will then write back to you and be like, I would like to use this tool, please, or here's the result. And you just, as long as it does, I would like to use this tool, you call the tool, you give it the response, you loop again, do that as many times as it asks, up to 10 in this case, because it's got a runaway limit. And then, you know, hopefully by the time before it gets to 10, one of the times it'll be like, all right, here's the actual answer. Yeah. Okay. Got a game plan. Got a much better understanding of the actual server protocol as well, MCP server protocol, which is kind of what I was hoping to get here, is like, what is this stuff actually sending back and forth? So I am going to head out for now. Thanks everyone for watching. I think I mentioned this last week and last night, but as a reminder, no deep dive next week and no stream on Saturday next week either. So October 17th, the Friday, there's no deep dive. October 18th, the Saturday, there's no morning stream here on my channel. So no streams from me next week. It's vacation week for me. Weekend, really. So I will not be streaming on Friday or Saturday next week. I should be back at the usual times the following week. So deep dive returns on 24th. My stream here on Saturday returns the 25th. Deep dive is 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Central. My stream here on Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central. So long. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in a couple.